need to surround yourself with other people.
I had to embrace change.
Be that person to elevate the people in your circle. Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Thank you for tuning in to episode 2. If you guys don't know, if it's just your first time tuning in, this is a new show that we are presenting on the Latin Wealth platform, where we're talking about everything related to mental health, personal development, and just developing yourself and growing as a person. And I'm excited to introduce, he's been on this platform multiple times in episode 1. If you haven't checked that episode out, highly recommend you go tune into that. My guy Carlos, how you feeling today, man?
Bro, I'm blessed, man. It's excited to get this off. I know we talked about it for a while, and today's topic is near and dear to my heart, just because as you build, as you evolve through life, this is a critical topic that you have to embrace in your evolution. So
sure.
This is going to be good.
Great topic today. Today's all about change your mindset, change your life. All right. So we're going to be diving into the importance of maintaining a healthy and positive mindset and how it can impact you personally and on your professional success. And of course, just like episode 1, we're going to share some of our personal experiences and some practical tips and tools that you can implement into your life to help you change your mindset and to change your life. And growing up in the Latino household and just in general, right? Like the things that we experienced as a kid and that we were taught from our parents, it does program the way we think and how we interact with people on the day-to-day life, and how we even view ourselves, how we envision our future, and so forth. So it's extremely important to make sure that you're constantly evolving and elevating your mind so you can change your environment and change your life as well. And I want to give a couple statistics. Look, if you guys didn't know, according to statistics, they say most of our thoughts that we have, they're actually negative thoughts. And actually only 10% of the thoughts that we have on average are only positive. Only 10% of the thoughts that we have are positive. And studies say that we have anywhere around 60 to 70,000 thoughts in one day. So just keep that in mind, or just picture that. Most of your thoughts that you're having 60,000 thoughts, 90% of them are negative, right? And I also came across a statistic where they were saying you can't necessarily think about 2 things at once. I know we can say we can multitask, but just think about that. If most of the thoughts we're having are negative and we can't think about 2 things at once, you can see how that can kind of develop your mindset and where that can eventually lead you. What are your thoughts about this, man? I know you're excited about this topic. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the Latino community, we're resilient.
For sure.
We tend to embrace laughter and just trying to make others happy or happy around us. But really is that deep down inside, we're suffering, right? We all are. We're going through our own battles. But, I think it's really important to understand how important programming is and how that from, your inception to adulthood really shapes you to be who you are as an adult. And, I read a book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, and the author highlights how the self-management sequence is important because ultimately your programming impacts your beliefs. Your beliefs impact your attitude. Your attitude defines your feelings, and your feelings influence your behavior. And so you're going from the day you're born until young adulthood being programmed by what you see and are influenced by the things around you with no control. Then you enter adult life, and those things are now influencing who you are, what you do, and how you go about your life. So it's really important that you at certain points calibrate. Not everyone comes from a healthy, living, thriving home, family upbringing, and that's okay. But what isn't okay is for you to go through life using that programming and putting maybe some of the negative, feelings you have into the world without embracing the change, changing your mindset, and changing your life.
Yeah, I like that, because like you said, what's not okay is accepting that paradigm that you grew up with, that mindset, that programming. We got to continue to evolve and elevate, right?
100%. And Chris, you and I have talked, numerous times about our upbringing and just how we were in, situations that, obviously we had no control over. I'm not saying that they're good, bad, or indifferent, but that programming was what we stepped into the world with. And ultimately we identified early in our lives that change was necessary in order to, live that life that we envisioned. So talk a little bit about that for you and your personal story behind this.
Yeah. So one of the similarities you and I have with growing up, and maybe a lot of y'all out there, is we both moved around a lot growing up.
Yeah.
A bunch of different schools, bunch of different elementary schools, apartment to apartment, house to house, city to city. And for me, I developed kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? I had basically trust issues is what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Growing up. And
you use the word lone wolf.
Yes, I was going to say I developed trust issues, and that then turned me into a lone wolf, is what I'll say. And what a lone wolf is, like someone that was trying to do everything by himself, trying to make things happen by myself. And I think there's definitely a season for that, especially as a man, where you need to dial in and focus on yourself and just get things done. But I lived the majority of my life like that, where I never developed strong relationships with people, never had, what you would call a best friend, really, until I met my wife. And it wasn't until, I had a mentor that always tell me, like, yo, like, you're doing good, but you can do great things with other people around you. And he would always tell me, like, look, you can't always get your advice from your wife and your mother. You need to surround yourself with other people, especially men, that can help you elevate you and take you to the next level. And I would always be like, yeah, I get it, but like, how do I make this happen? I don't even remember going out to lunch with some friends in college, and they had their own crew, their own, they were all going to schools to be like doctors and whatnot. And I was kind of the outsider and whatnot. And I just look at them and marvel, like, man, how dope it is to be around a group of guys, that want to succeed at a high level. So it wasn't until really I turned 27 that I started embracing that mindset of abundance, and started to surround myself like people like you, Jeremiah. We have a men's group that we have every single Monday, and church building community. It wasn't until then that I really took myself to the next level by just simply surrounding myself with people that different areas of my life that I feel like they were better than me at.
Absolutely. And Chris, kind of touching on that, as you mentioned, I have a similar background where my parents were in the military, and so I went to 7 schools in 12 years. I was always the new kid. And a lot of that built my character, built my resilience, and my, my social kind of skill sets.
Same.
But really, I think when I think about this changing your mind to change your life, I think about a quote from Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA. And he says, greatness is not intelligence. Greatness comes from character. And character isn't formed out of smart people. It's formed out of those who have suffered.
That's good.
Right? And so ultimately, it's embracing your past and defining your future. You have to go through that and evolve and change and change your perspective on things in order to grow. When I was younger, I encountered a lot of transition, a lot of self-sabotage. I would drink, I would party with the wrong, influence of friends and circles. And I had a lot of self-doubt. And ultimately it all became because I was never comfortable with that transition or those those seasons. And so I had a lot of, I masked a lot of my pain with alcohol. And I got to a point where I had to embrace change. I had to change my mindset. And once I learned to do that, that's when I changed my life. And so over the past 10 years, you know, I have remained abstinence from alcohol. I have found a better inner circle, right? I've joined the Marathon Men with you to really drive and you know, aspire to be greater together. And ultimately, I have found mentorship and provided mentorship.
That's good.
So, you know, but ultimately, that all comes from understanding that a change had to happen.
That happened, yep. That happened.
And so I had to change my mindset, which that then changed my life. And it's put me in a position to thrive in this world. And I think that's something very important for the Latino community, because ultimately we fall victim of patterns and behaviors. And you know, when you see the circle that you're around having a good time, you know, using alcohol to mask pain, and not holding each other accountable, that's where people just fall into the ruts of life, and they don't, they don't embrace their character to thrive and evolve into who they want to be.
For sure. And I mean, look, when it comes to having that survival mindset, like we do a great job with that, but we want to start to transition into having a mindset where we can thrive in life, right? Not just focusing on surviving every day or surviving week to week, but we want to thrive every day, thrive from week to week.
100%. So let's talk about a few of the solutions that we think will help those that might be looking to embrace change and looking to change their mindset and change their life. The first one, I think, you know a lot about this because you're a community leader, you're building community, identify the right community. You have to find inspiration, accountability, and mentorship. Talk a little bit about that in your experience.
You know, this is really interesting because people out there may feel like, yo, I already have my community. I have my group of friends I grew up with since high school or since whenever. I'm good. But I would suggest that we should take an audit of our circle.
Yeah.
Look at, is this circle pushing me to my goals, pushing me to elevate, to be better, or is it suppressing me to be comfortable? And I think that's important. If your circle isn't necessarily putting you in a situation where you're uncomfortable to grow, then you may want to look to a different circle or be that person to elevate the people in your circle.
100%. And talking about the Marathon Men, and we meet every Monday to hold each other accountable. We inspire each other with our stories and our experiences. But most importantly, it's brotherhood and elevating about uplifting each other. So I think that's huge because we are like-minded from different backgrounds, and we all share our experiences to then guide us to where we want to go. But you talked about this other one, while we stay on identify community, mentorship. And so you've got mentors, I've got mentors, I've become a mentor. It's super important.
It's important. Let me tell you this. So mentorship may not always come in the traditional way that you expect. And what I mean by that is my mentor wasn't necessarily somebody that I got on the phone with or that I seen face to face. It was when I was 17, I was scrolling on worldstarhiphop.com. Remember that?
Oh yeah. World Star.
You feel me? So coming across the video of Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher.
E.T.
So watch one of his videos. It was what was the name of the video? I think it was like, how bad do you want to succeed or something like that, or how bad do you want, something like that. But watched one video, I was hooked. And literally since the age of 17 still to this day, I'm 30 now, he's someone that I go to, I rely on for wisdom. And it's not somebody that I have to be calling. He doesn't need to be here. Just put on one of his videos and just hear his perspective. And for me to see a black man from Detroit, not that I'm from Detroit, but, you know, from the hood, talking about success, talking about having a healthy relationship with his wife, and talking about brotherhood was inspiring for me to want to continue to consume and apply to my life.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, mentorship is big. I've had several mentors, both personally and professionally. And to me, I think that's the key is finding people that not only will give you the game, but will also learn from your experiences that they can, you know, elevate their game, right? Mm-hmm. And it may be minuscule, but it's a two-way street.
Two-way street, yeah, 100%.
The other solution is embracing lifelong learning. I'll share that when I graduated college, I had the mindset of, I'm done. I've learned enough to enter the workforce and you know, I've got a skill set or a trade, and there was a little bit of entitlement there, right? But quickly I learned that was false confidence, and that I needed to invest in myself.
Interesting.
And so becoming a lifelong learner means that you invest in yourself by reading books, continuing to build your skill set, and continuously reinventing yourself.
For sure.
So I think that's a common narrative in our men's group. We're constantly embracing learning from each other, learning from our experiences, and we read a book a month. So the last solution here.
I want to say something about that real quick.
Please.
And this may be an unpopular thing to say, but I truly believe if you're at a place in your life where you're not satisfied or you want more, I think you should be investing more on developing yourself internally, whether it's paying for mentorship, paying for books, paying for courses, whatever it is that you have to do, than you investing on your external self. So what people see, right? And we have gotten to the place where we still have a long way to go of what we want to accomplish, but where we can enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? But if you haven't got to that point yet, I highly believe that, for example, there was a time where I was spending more money on books, programs, getting on calls with people than I was on anything else. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that's maybe a hard pill for people to swallow, but I think it's super important.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to know that, you know, where you're at doesn't define where you're going.
100%.
And so there was a time where I worked in hospitality, and I knew that I wanted to, for me to fulfill my aspirations, I wanted to get into something else. And I'm not dissing hospitality.
For sure.
I just knew that was a means to an end.
Yeah.
And that there was something bigger and more fulfilling out there. And so, you know, I had to take those entry level positions and those, you know, being at a place where I was learning, and whether it was the role I wanted or not, I knew there was a lesson in that.
100%.
Right. So that one's super important. The last solution that we want to offer is focusing on positive affirmation and self-talk. We cover this often. There's a lot of tactics out there, but really, if you don't feel good about yourself, then you're not going to, right? I love Deion Sanders said, right? Like, feel good, play good, get paid good, right?
Get paid good, for sure.
And so, you know, you have to embrace that, where you're providing positive affirmation, you're speaking things into existence, you're triggering your self-conscious to believe that you're worth, you know, about your worth, about your performance, about your capabilities, and then create that positive self-talk to ensure that when you are put in a position to perform, you will achieve and exceed your goals.
Man, I love that. And you know what's interesting, to give people some practical steps, if they're like, man, how do you be positive?
Yeah.
I look at the world, or I look at the glass half empty, right? I'm pessimistic. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, you may believe this or not, but I don't necessarily see myself as a positive person. I see myself as someone that's extremely grateful, which then I may come off as a positive person. I express gratitude for every aspect of my life, and I for sure mean it, right? Whether it's thank God it's Monday, the day that people hate or, dread, I thank God for another week, another opportunity. I thank God for the blessings that are going to happen this week.
Yeah.
I thank you for the opportunity for you being here. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't think I'm necessarily a naturally positive person, but I am extremely grateful, and I recognize that.
Yeah. Well, the attitude of gratitude
For sure.
is something that pays dividends over and over and over. It's how you show up to people. It's how you express, like you just said, right? Like, thank you for being here, right? Just giving people the understanding of like, this may not be here, this may not be possible. It may not be here.
100%.
And so I think just having that self-talk, having positive affirmation, is good. So jumping into this, let's close it out with 3 books
Let's do it. Let's run through these.
Can help change your mindset.
For sure.
I talked about this one, and I think this one's a great one. What to say when you talk to yourself. This one is super important because the first half of the book is why, and the second half of the book is how. It's a very short read, but it talks about how those negative thoughts really are the things that trip us up in our day-to-day, in our life, hold us back, and create a negative turmoil. And then it gives you the how to implement positive self-talk. 85% of the conversations that we have are with ourselves. And so, believe it or not, this right here, this is only 15% of our total conversations as an individual.
Yeah, just to hit on that real quick, shout out to Jeremiah. He has this quote that he says often where if the thoughts that you had about yourself manifested into a person, would you be friends with that person?
Wow. That's
And when he first told me that, I was like, hell no. I would not be friends with him. But we say that to say, like, we need to be mindful about what we're thinking about and how we're thinking about ourselves.
Absolutely. It ultimately represents how we show up. So this next one is exciting because we're currently reading it. So talk about that one.
I got it in person right here. It's don't believe, hopefully this is focusing, don't believe everything you think while you're thinking is the beginning and end of suffering. It's a short read as well. I'm about halfway through the book. Here's a quote from the book. Our feelings do not come from external events, but from our thinking about them. So in a nutshell, phenomenal book so far. This book is pretty much about how our overthinking, it's essentially wanting us to think less and to be more in that flow state. And if you think about the times that you're the most happiest, that you are feeling good, or that you're in that flow state, what are you thinking about? You're not thinking about anything. You think about, like, literally, no pun intended, but the time that you are thinking and you are over analyzing, it can potentially lead to a lot of frustration and a lot of negative thoughts. Yeah. So great book. Highly recommend this one.
I love that. And then the last one we'll leave you with is one that we read last year with the Marathon Men. And this one's so good. I read it and then I played the audiobook and I ended up reading it again. And it's Winning the War in Your Mind.
Fire.
Winning the War in Your Mind really talks about how you're having, tens of thousands of thoughts a day. They're primarily all negative. They're fear-based. You're driven by fear. You're essentially programming yourself over and over and over and over for failure. And so how to win the war in your mind and essentially drive the outcomes in the life, in the fulfilling, thriving life that you want.
Fire. Yep, I love that. Fire.
It's so important. So I think mental health is such a key topic. It's in today's overwhelming overstimulated world,
For sure.
it's easy to be, a secondary ancillary thought that just doesn't resonate with people. And what we're trying to share today is that you're in control of it. Like embrace mental health, embrace the tactics to change your mindset and change your life.
For sure. I love that. Look, if you guys enjoyed this episode or learned anything from this episode, it would mean the world to us if you can share it with one other person. And just a heads up, we got this show on Latin Wealth. We got Wealth Wednesday, where we talk about trending news. And we also got interviews with Latinos in our community that we have on from time to time. And as always, dale pa'lante.
Let's do it.